For 15 long years, Veronica Hayes, female 35, had lived in a world that seemed beautiful, yet unbearably confined. Her Beverly Hills mansion, with its sparkling chandeliers, expansive gardens, and panoramic views of the city, had become more of a gilded cage than a home. Once a lively, adventurous teenager, she had been rendered immobile after a tragic accident that left her unable to walk. Doctors had tried every therapy, every experimental treatment, but nothing restored her legs. Friends came and went, some staying out of pity, others drifting away when life's social world proved too difficult for her to join. Her days followed a rigid, lonely rhythm. Breakfast was served in her sunlit conservatory, where she watched birds flutter among the roses, but could never step outside to feel the grass beneath her feet. The afternoons were filled with reading, charity calls, or arranging flowers, beautiful distractions, but none replaced the freedom she once had. Visitors often commented on her composure, impressed by her elegance despite her condition, yet they never saw the frustration that simmered beneath. Every glance at the wheelchair reminded her of what she had lost, each passing year making the prospect of walking again seem more impossible. Veronica's parents had long since passed, leaving her with a sprawling fortune, but no true family. Her wealth could buy anything, luxury cars, vacations, the finest doctors, but money could not fix what had been broken in her body and spirit. Her isolation was compounded by her social status. Many were drawn to her only for appearances, for the glamorous image of the rich, disabled heiress. Genuine connections were rare. Loneliness had settled like a shadow across the mansion's ornate hallways. Even her closest friend, Marissa, seemed to forget how confined Veronica truly felt, always insisting she join garden parties or fundraisers rather than understanding her inner turmoil. One morning, as golden sunlight streamed through the tall windows, a van arrived at the gates. Veronica's caretaker mentioned a new gardener, a young man sent to replace the previous one who had resigned. With some reluctance, Veronica allowed him to enter. Lucas Bennett, male 28, stepped onto the gravel driveway, a humble figure against the backdrop of luxury. His overalls were simple, slightly worn, but his posture was confident, and there was a warmth in his smile that made Veronica's heart skip. He greeted the staff politely, then glanced up at her sitting in the wheelchair. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, his tone gentle yet earnest. From the first moment, there was a quiet understanding between them. Lucas worked around the estate with care, tending to flowers and trimming hedges, but his eyes often lingered on Veronica. He did not stare in pity, nor did he overstep with awkward concern. Instead, he moved. With a kind attentiveness, always aware of her presence, Veronica watched him, fascinated by the simplicity of his work and the sincerity of his demeanor. Unlike others who treated her like a fragile object, Lucas seemed to see her as a person, fully capable of thought and feeling, even if her legs could no longer support her. Days passed, and Lucas's routine visits became a small highlight in Veronica's otherwise monotonous life. He would offer small conversations, discussing the roses, the weather, or simple jokes that made her laugh, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in years. His presence was calming, yet there was something in his demeanor that hinted at quiet strength and patience. One afternoon, while adjusting the climbing roses near the patio, he looked at her and whispered softly, almost conspiratorially, "I'll help you, if you let me." The words were so unexpected, so genuine, that Veronica felt a flutter of hope deep within her chest, a sensation she hadn't experienced in over a decade. Curiosity mixed with skepticism. Could this young gardener, this stranger, really make a difference? Veronica had endured years of disappointment and false promises, seen therapists, doctors, and trainers fail. She wanted to believe, yet fear lingered. Still, there was something in Lucas's eyes, a quiet faith that he could guide her toward what she had long thought impossible. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of possibility, a sense that her life might shift in a way she had never imagined. This wasn't just about walking, it was about reclaiming the freedom, independence, and joy she had lost. Over the next few days, Veronica allowed Lucas to approach her with gentle exercises, starting with small, simple movements. At first, she resisted, afraid of pain and failure. But Lucas never pushed. He guided her through, stretching her legs slightly, bending her knees, flexing her toes, celebrating every tiny success. Veronica was amazed at how much strength she had retained, how her body responded to gentle encouragement. For the first time in years, she felt connected to her own body again, as if a door had slowly begun to creak open after being locked for 15 years. Evenings became moments of quiet reflection and anticipation. Veronica would watch Lucas tending to the garden, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and admiration. There was a gentleness in the way he approached life, a kindness that felt rare in her world of wealth and superficiality. She began to look forward to his visits, not just for the exercises, but for his presence, his laughter, and the subtle way he encouraged her without making her feel helpless. Each day brought renewed hope, and Veronica felt her spirit lift in ways she hadn't imagined possible. The mansion, once silent and oppressive, seemed to breathe again. Veronica began to envision a life beyond the wheelchair, imagining herself strolling through the gardens, feeling the sun on her face, and walking through the halls with freedom. Lucas's belief in her fueled her courage, and slowly the impossible began to feel attainable. 15 years of despair were meeting the quiet, persistent hope brought by a young gardener's whispered promise. In that moment, Veronica realized that sometimes miracles arrive in the most unexpected forms, and that her journey to walking, again, might just be beginning. Over the next few days, Lucas visited the patio each morning, not just to tend to the flowers, but to guide Veronica through careful exercises. At first, it was simple movements, wiggling her toes, flexing her ankles, bending her knees. She felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear. Her muscles were weak, atrophied from 15 years of disuse, and every small movement required concentration. Lucas stayed by her side, holding her hands gently, encouraging her, never rushing, never showing frustration. Veronica felt a warmth she hadn't known in years, a trust slowly building between her and this humble gardener. Veronica's first attempts at standing were tentative. Lucas positioned himself behind her, his hands steady on her waist, his voice calm. "You can do this," he whispered, more to reassure her than himself. Her legs trembled, and fear threatened to make her give up, but Lucas's unwavering support grounded her. Slowly, inch by inch, she shifted her weight, her feet pressing against the polished floor. A spark of joy ignited in her chest. The sensation of her own legs supporting her, even partially, was thrilling, almost unbelievable. Lucas's smile encouraged her, reinforcing her growing belief that walking again might truly be possible. Every day, Veronica noticed small improvements. Her legs became slightly stronger, her balance a little better. What had once seemed like impossible motions were slowly becoming routine. Lucas celebrated every tiny success with her, clapping softly, encouraging words flowing naturally. "See, you did it," he said, each time making her heart swell. Veronica realized that the exercises were not just physical, they were opening her mind to the possibility of hope after years of despair. She began to anticipate his visits eagerly, finding herself looking forward to the garden, not merely for the fresh air, but for the shared moments with Lucas. One afternoon, Lucas brought a small wooden stool to the patio. "Let's try standing for a few seconds without me holding you," he suggested, eyes kind but serious. Veronica's heart raced at the thought, Fear and anticipation tangled in her chest, yet she nodded. With careful guidance, Lucas helped her lift onto the stool, hands brushing hers for support. She took a shaky breath, her legs trembling beneath her, yet a sense of exhilaration washed over her. For the first time in 15 years, she felt the sensation of independence approaching, a sensation she had long thought impossible, hidden beneath years of confinement and doubt. Veronica's confidence began to grow alongside her strength. She experimented with small steps, Lucas supporting her waist lightly, his voice always steady, always reassuring. The exercises became a game, a dance, a shared challenge that bonded them beyond teacher and student. The mansion, once quiet and isolating, now echoed with laughter, soft encouragements, and occasional exclamations of triumph. Each day she looked forward to seeing Lucas, not just for the physical progress, but for the human connection she had been deprived of for so long. His presence had become as vital to her spirit as it was to her body. Evenings became a time of reflection. Veronica would sit in her wheelchair, recalling the moments when Lucas's encouragement had pushed her past fear, when she had felt the first tingling sensations in her legs after years of numbness. She realized that her journey was not just about walking, but about reclaiming the independence, confidence, and joy she had lost. Each day brought a new milestone, a renewed hope. She began to dream of simple pleasures again, walking in her garden, feeling the sun on her face, and someday moving freely without assistance. One sunny afternoon, Veronica managed to take 3 steps without Lucas fully supporting her. Her heart raced, and tears filled her eyes. She stopped, unable to believe the progress she had made. Lucas knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face, whispering, "I told you, you can do it." In that moment, Veronica understood that his support had done more than strengthen her body. It had healed a wounded spirit, restored her belief in possibility, and reminded her that connection and trust could change lives. The mansion, once oppressive, now felt alive with promise. Family and friends began to notice the transformation. Some were skeptical, doubting the sudden progress, while others were astonished. Veronica felt a mixture of pride and joy, but also a quiet defiance toward those who had doubted her. Lucas remained a constant, quiet presence, never seeking attention, never demanding recognition. Their relationship was built on trust, encouragement, and patience. With each passing day, she became more independent, more confident, and more alive. The fear that had gripped her for 15 years was gradually replaced by exhilaration, anticipation, and hope for a future she had long thought impossible. By the end of the week, Veronica could take several steps along the patio with minimal support. Every moment of movement filled her with joy, each success a victory over years of doubt. She laughed freely, a sound that had not resonated in the mansion for over a decade. Lucas's gentle guidance had helped her reclaim her body, but more importantly, he had helped her reclaim herself. Veronica realized that her life was no longer defined by limitation, but by the strength, courage, and determination that Lucas had nurtured. For the first time in 15 years, she believed she could truly walk again. Veronica's newfound strength grew with each passing day. Walking, once a distant dream, was now becoming a tangible reality. Lucas remained by her side, steady and patient, offering gentle support while never pushing too hard. The mansion, which had long felt cold and isolating, now rang with laughter and conversation. Veronica discovered that movement brought freedom not only to her body, but also to her spirit. She began exploring parts of the estate she hadn't seen in years, running her hands over the garden's blooms, feeling the soft breeze on her face, and embracing the world with renewed wonder. The day she first walked across the patio without leaning on Lucas, her heart pounded with a mixture of triumph and disbelief. The sun glinted off the marble, floors, casting long shadows, as if the house itself was celebrating with her. She felt light, almost weightless, as her legs carried her steadily. Lucas clapped softly, pride shining in his eyes. "You did it," he said, voice filled with awe. Veronica laughed, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. She realized in that moment that walking again was only part of the miracle. The bigger transformation was her regained confidence and the rekindling of a spirit that had been dormant for 15 long years. Friends and neighbors began to notice the change. Visits became more frequent, curiosity replacing the old pity-filled expressions. Veronica found herself participating in small social gatherings again, but now with an energy and confidence that had been absent for years. Lucas continued to guide her through her routines, offering support when necessary, yet always giving her space to explore and assert her independence. Each step she took was a reminder that hope, patience, and trust could overcome even the most prolonged despair. For Veronica, every moment was a victory over fear, and every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of her lost life. Evenings were the most cherished moments. Sitting in her favorite armchair by the patio, Veronica reflected on her journey with gratitude. Lucas would often join her, sharing stories about the garden, the city beyond the mansion, or humorous anecdotes from his past. Their conversations flowed naturally, filled with laughter, encouragement, and gentle teasing. Veronica realized that in addition to restoring her ability to walk, Lucas had become a companion who enriched her life in ways she hadn't anticipated. His presence reminded her that the greatest gift was not physical mobility alone, but the deep human connection that had awakened her heart. One afternoon, Veronica attempted to walk down the mansion's long hallways without assistance. Each step was deliberate, measured, yet filled with confidence. She could hear her own footsteps echoing, a sound that had been foreign for over a decade. Lucas trailed a few feet behind, smiling proudly but letting her lead. Veronica felt exhilarated, almost triumphant, as the walls of the mansion seemed to expand, welcoming her movement. With every stride, she discovered new freedoms, the ability to stand tall, to move without aid, and to experience her environment fully. The mansion had transformed from a place of confinement to one of endless possibilities. The garden became her sanctuary. Veronica spent hours walking among the roses, lavender and jasmine, often alongside Lucas. They discussed her progress, her dreams, and even her fears. Lucas encouraged her to set small challenges for herself, turning each stroll into a celebration of strength and perseverance. Veronica realized that walking again was not just a physical achievement, but an emotional triumph over years of isolation and doubt. The bond between her and Lucas deepened, built on trust, shared effort, and the understanding that healing, both physical and emotional, requires patience, care, and mutual respect. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Veronica and Lucas stood on the mansion terrace, overlooking the glittering city lights of Los Angeles. She felt a surge of gratitude and awe. "I didn't just regain my ability to walk," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You helped me reclaim my life." Lucas brushed a strand of hair from her face and smiled. "Sometimes," he said softly, "all someone needs is faith and a hand to hold." In that moment, Veronica understood that the journey had been about far more than walking. It had been about hope, resilience, and the power of human kindness. Her life began to transform in unexpected ways. Veronica no longer viewed her disability as the defining aspect of her identity. She took trips, attended social events, and even hosted small gatherings at the mansion, moving confidently among her guests. Her laughter returned fully, filling rooms that had long been silent. Lucas continued to support her quietly, never overshadowing her achievements, but celebrating them with sincere joy. Veronica felt a renewed sense of purpose, realizing that her journey had inspired her to live fully, embrace challenges, and cherish meaningful connections above all else. The final milestone came when Veronica danced lightly across the ballroom floor for the first time in 15 years. Lucas watched from the sidelines, his eyes shining with pride and admiration. Veronica spun gently, laughter spilling freely, her body moving with grace and confidence. It was more than a dance. It was a triumphant declaration of life regained, a symbol of the strength she had cultivated over months of effort, trust, and encouragement. That night, as the city lights twinkled below, Veronica knew she had emerged from years of darkness into a life filled with movement, joy, and the unshakable belief in her own resilience. Veronica's journey was complete, yet it was only the beginning of a new chapter. Walking again had given her more than mobility. It had restored her independence, confidence, and sense of joy. Lucas's guidance and unwavering faith had sparked a transformation that extended far beyond the physical. The mansion no longer symbolized isolation, but freedom and possibility. Veronica and Lucas shared a quiet understanding that miracles often come from unexpected sources, and that the greatest victories are born from patience, trust, and human kindness. 15 years of limitation had finally ended, replaced by a life of promise and connection.